Hello and welcome to All That Jazz. I'm Viviam Maria Lopez. From Soulmates to Jazzmates, this award-winning jazz duo have performed together for over 25 years. One has the voice and the other the guitar, and together they form Davis and Dow. My guests today are jazz vocalist Julie Davis and guitarist Kelly Dow. Welcome to the show.
Good afternoon.
Good
Thank
afternoon.
you.
A pleasure to have you here. So both of you were born in Texas.
Yes, I was born in San Angelo, Texas, which is right in the center of the state.
Kelly?
And I was born in Lubbock, Texas. And then I was raised in Hobbs, New Mexico, so right away, which is right on the border of Texas.
And Julie, I understand that you got into jazz thanks to your parents in many ways because of the amazing collection of albums that they have on greats such as Duke Ellington and Ella Fitzgerald.
Yes, my family, we didn't watch a lot of TV. I was born in '70, so we didn't watch a lot of TV. Our lives really were centered in the evenings around dinner at the table, and then they would play music, play records, and they like to swing dance a lot.
I love that.
And music during the day. So, I mean, everything evolved around music and dancing and laughter. But I got my education from listening to those records and singing along with them, and just became a part of my DNA growing up.
Oh, I love that very much. And Kelly, you studied music at University of North Texas.
Yes, I went to the University of North Texas, an amazing jazz program. And I actually, before the University of North Texas, I spent a year at a small guitar conservatory in San Antonio, and they were also very jazz oriented. And that's when I started to play jazz.
Now, upon graduation, what did you do?
Well, I had just graduated with a music degree, and a friend of mine said there's a gig in Florida on a cruise ship. So I took it, and that's what got me out to Florida, actually.
Oh, excellent. And you were there for several years, and you played like in different formats?
I did. And sometimes cruise ships get a bad rap, to be a musician on there, but it was a lot of fun for me. I got to travel. I got to play in a lot of different situations. Sometimes I was in the show band reading the chart, and then sometimes I had a trio where we were playing standards. So it was actually a really good experience.
Oh, excellent. And would you say your main influences? Who are they?
I love Joe Pass. He is probably my all-time favorite, but there's so many guitar players I love, and I love different styles of guitar music. I love flamenco, I love classical, so I'm just a guitar nerd. And Django, I love Django Reinhardt. I like the older guitarists, the pioneers, and so Charlie Christian, Django Reinhardt, Joe Pass, Wes Montgomery. Lately, we've both been loving watching John Pizzarelli.
Oh, yes.
He's doing some Facebook live shows, and he's amazing.
Yes.
That's so great. And Julie, you moved to Florida, was it in 1994?
Yes, correct.
How did that happen?
Well, I was living in Texas and really not pursuing my passion. And my mother, who lived in Florida at the time, said, "You belong here with me. I want to support your art and your music." I feel very emotional because it was such a turning point for me. I'm so grateful. So I came to Florida really not knowing anybody but my mom. And so she would take me around to all the little jazz clubs, and I got to meet Ira Sullivan.
Oh, yes.
Dr. Lonnie Smith, Danny Berger, all the greats that were the staple of the jazz community here. And they just took me in, and these are the songs you should learn. This is how you should stand when you're on stage.
Wow.
I mean, because there's really a lot there is a show business aspect of it,
yes.
without me digressing too much. But being in Florida, there was just such a beautiful network of people that took me in as family, and I kind of grew up and cut my teeth here, and with those people teaching me and guiding me, it's just been an amazing experience. So I couldn't leave. I could love it here.
Perfect. And then how did you meet Kelly? How did that happen? How did you guys meet?
Well, my mother, who has a lot of great ideas, said, put an ad in the newspaper. This is before I met Lonnie and Ira and all of the greats. She said, put an ad in this musician's newspaper called The Rag, and just sing her into Ella Fitzgerald, Frank Sinatra, Sarah Vaughan, looking for musicians to form a band with, to rehearse with. And on a whim I did. It was a free ad, and he called. He answered the ad, and he told me where he went to school, which is North Texas, and I knew about the school because it's a famous jazz school, and I thought, you're from Texas, you went to North Texas. So we met, and we played together. It was a holiday. We sat in at a jam session, and my mother escorted me, and I heard him play for the first time, and he heard me sing, and it was just love at first listen.
At first note?
Yes, it really was. Because we felt like we were, you know, with music, as you know, it's a language, but I think we were really, it just felt everything lined up. It was all congruent for us.
So definitely your love for jazz and for music is what really brought you both together and has kept you together
Vivian.
for, you know, beautifully over 25 years.
Yes.
That's amazing, great. Well, we're going to have to take our first break, but when we come back, our guests are going to tell us what relation they have with famed chef Bobby Flay. The answer right after this.
Miami-Dade College has career paths in anything you want to be. What's your story? Be global. Be cutting edge. Be inventive. Be investigative. Be a hero. What do you want to be? Be the best. Be you. Be MDC.
And welcome back to All That Jazz. Joining me today are Julie Davis and Kelly Dow of Davis & Dow. You have toured around the world and playing and singing, but you also do teaching. Tell me about that.
Okay, I teach at North Broward Preparatory School, Rep the Prep.
Yes.
So it's a really great school for science, math, academics, but also fine arts. In fact, we have a fine arts academy, so and it's for lower school, middle school, high school. And I teach guitar, and we have guitar classes. So I have high school guitar 1, 2, 3, 4, and I have middle school guitar, and we just, like I said earlier, I'm a guitar nerd, so we start with classical, but we also play jazz, you know, and we have a lot of fun.
Now, these are younger students. How does it feel, you know, to teach, you know, I think they're middle school and high school?
Yes. At first, I was a little hesitant and unsure because, you know, the teaching at a college like here, you get more serious students and they have some more skills. But I've really fallen in love with teaching the beginners and showing them here's a C chord and a D chord, and then watching them grow. You know, I had a student that graduated last year. He was playing Django Reinhardt solos, and he could play these really incredible flamenco solos. And I remember when he was just starting. So it's really joyful and rewarding.
Makes you proud to see the growth,
absolutely,
you know, and
absolutely.
that they pick up and you see the future in them as well. Now, I know that you're also, you plan to be starting also the Suzuki program there?
Yes, so I did Suzuki training this summer, and that's all classical, but they have, it's more of a philosophy about teaching. And I plan to start that. There's a lot. There's a lot of interaction, and group lessons are involved, and so it's a little difficult to start in the pandemic where we are now, but in the future, I'm definitely going to start that Suzuki program at North Broward. And I'm using a lot of the things I learned in the classroom.
Oh, very good, very good. And Julie, I know that he's more of the one who's doing the teaching, but also you teach some voice lessons to some students?
I do, yes, Vivian, I do. From time to time, I have a student. I don't teach as much as he does, but I do. And my approach to music is much more a natural method rather than from books, because that's my approach of how I learned. So that's the best way I can convey my knowledge is through working with people and on phrasing and scat singing and interpreting music through the lyrics and the melody. So.
And that's a great combination because you might go more into, if you say scholastically, if you may, and then you're doing more of the natural. And I think you'll get both kinds of students who'll be more of that, who would want to go both ways, one or the other way.
Yes.
Now, I also hear, Julie, that you have a great passion for photography. You're a photographer.
How did you know? Well, I love photography so much. A couple of years ago, I just felt a lull in my creativity, as a lot of artists from time to time reach that in their life. And I wanted to do something more than just singing, because I love singing and it's a business. So to get away from music and do something that's creative, like cooking or gardening, but I wanted to do something more that really exercised my mind. And so my father used to be a photographer, and I used to help him in the studio when I was little. Just assistant, move that camera, move that light. And he did portraiture and weddings. And so I got a camera and I started taking some courses and I started shooting, and it's just, I love it so much. And it's really a part of who I am now. It's part of my identity. So I plan on launching a website within the next month and promoting it. And even though we live in this time where we have to be socially distant from each other, I still plan on promoting it and trying to, and I love people. So it's portraits and musicians, and just because I connect with people. So.
Yes. In a way, it also helps connect us with the people that we might not be able to see live yet.
Yes.
But through the photography, they'll be able to enjoy that. So that's excellent. That's excellent. Now, returning to music, Kelly, I know you play the 7-string guitar. Are there other instruments that you also play?
Not well, but I play 6-string guitar, and there's so many facets to guitar. So, like I say, I dabble in classical and flamenco, but I also I play 5-string banjo, ukulele, and I dabble in all those things. I have a trumpet I play from time to time, but you don't want to hear it, but it's fun. It's actually fun, and I like playing, even playing pianos, because it reconnects me with how a beginner feels, and so I can empathize a lot more with my students when I try and play something on piano. Like, that's exactly what they feel like when I'm like, this is easy, why can't you do it? So it helps me connect with my students.
That's great. Now, we talked about it in the previous segment. What is it that connects you with Bobby FLAY? What's your connection with him?
You take it.
So several years ago, Bobby FLAY had a show called Food Nation with Bobby FLAY. You have to say it that way, not the other way. And he would go around, he would tour all over the country, and he would find certain segments of the population that exuded a burst of culture. And so he decided to come to, he did a segment in Miami, and then he went up to Palm Beach, and an agent that was booking the music for the show knew the producer and said they wanted to get a group that would be a good example of the music of that area. And we didn't even live in Palm Beach, but they called us to do it and said, but the trick is you can only do original music. So we had a few songs that we wrote at the time, and so we played our original music, and they filmed segments very similar to this, except we were outside and there were ducks everywhere. But anyways, so we made our national TV debut on Food Nation with Bobby FLAY. So it was a highlight. It was a lot of fun.
Very nice, very good. Yes. Well, we're gonna have to take a quick break now. When we come back, my guest is gonna tell us what they have done during this trying time, and of course, it has to do with music. So stay tuned.
Miami-Dade College has career paths in anything you want to be. What's your story? Be global. Be cutting edge. Be inventive. Be investigative. Be a hero. What do you want to be? Be the best. Be you. Be MDC.
And thank you again for joining us on All That Jazz. With me on the set are award-winning duo Davis and Dow. So let's talk about some of those accolades and awards that you've received.
Back in the day when they had the monthly and bi-weekly magazines, we did do pretty well with some readers' polls for jazz artists, especially in Broward, because that's where we primarily play. When we were touring colleges, we also received some nominations. There are a couple college entertainment circles, and we did receive some nominations there. And one year there was a little organization that gave us the Album of the Year for Jazz for Florida. Mm-hmm. And so, and we're proud of all those.
Of course.
And I give her the Best Singer of the Year every year.
He just wants me to cook him dinner.
Well, congratulations on all
Thank
those
you.
accolades, of course. And as we know, we're going through a pandemic, but
Yes.
you have done
Yes.
something positive about it. Tell us the things that you've been doing lately.
Well, when it all happened, when March, I turned 50 March 16th, and we had a big party at our house. And it was all hugs and kisses and love, and then that was the last week. And then we're in our homes, we're musicians. He had to teach virtually, as all the teachers did, and students. But we decided that we were going to go live, online, 3 times a week, because when you're a musician, you have to keep everything oiled and just your chops. If you don't sing, if you don't use it, you lose it. So, and we wanted to connect with our audience. We wanted to connect with our fans, and so we decided to do 3 Facebook Live shows a week, which dwindled down to 1 as of now because he teaches full time.
Right.
And people are getting a little tired of being online all the time. There's a term for it called Zoom fatigue, which you may have heard before. But when in the summer, when he's not teaching, this summer we decided let's try to get out of the house and get some fresh air and take a road trip. So we know a few friends that have big houses with, up in North Carolina, you have a lot of space to stretch out. So I thought, well, let's go to North Carolina and contact some friends that might be willing to host a yard concert or a front porch concert.
Nice.
So we got in the car and we packed the cats up and the guitars, and we went up to North Carolina, to Weaverville and to Bakersfield, and we did 2 front porch concerts.
Beautiful.
And people were 10 feet apart. They had masks, but they had their own food, and they brought wine, and it was just a really lovely, again, I am so emotional, I cry at the drop of a hat, and it felt so good to connect with people and to play music and be a part of this. So we decided to do this little thing, and it really made a difference. So those are some of the few things that we're trying to do.
And we've also got back to recording.
Yes.
And so
I was going to ask you about that because I know you have 3 albums and you're back recording on your 4th
yes.
one.
And that probably, I don't know if we would have gotten to it as if COVID hadn't happened.
No.
We have a really nice home studio, and we're back to recording as a duo. And our project is a tribute to Joe Pass and Ella Fitzgerald. And
which I know connect you very much. You're some of your first influences and your big, mentors, if you may, musical mentors. So it's that connection that you're having. Do you think now it is easier for musicians to have their home-based studio also? And I know that the situation calls for
Yeah.
it too, but do you feel that now that you've been recording a lot at home?
Well, financially, no. If you don't have money and you're not making a living as a musician, then chances are you're teaching or you're bagging groceries, and so you can't even think about that. I mean, there are programs online like GarageBand, and a lot of people have the technology nowadays to record something that's, comparable to today's standards of audio, the audio quality that can be played online. So I think a lot of people do have access to that technology, and most people have something to record with. But
there's challenges.
there are challenges. I would say they would be, because you can learn how to work any program if you have YouTube. I mean, there's so much information out there, but I think money is the most difficult part that stands between an artist and getting a product.
Of
something,
quality.
That's
Now,
the biggest.
what advice would you give to students who are entering the music industry, or those who have this plan to pursue, this?
Well, when I went to school, I was not interested in teaching. That wasn't something I really wanted to do. I came to it later in life, but I love it. And so I would tell students to and I mean, everybody wants to be a star and a performer and, just make it playing. It's really difficult to do. And today, with the musicians we played with that teach at this campus, they're incredible. So you can teach and you can play, and it's a good combination. So I would encourage students to look at education.
Very good. Julie, any thoughts?
What he said.
That's very good.
Very eloquent, and I couldn't top. Any advice? From my end, from my point of view, I think that there are a lot of students that go to school, musicians and singers that go to school, and they learn what is available, but there's a lot of the business side of music that you can't teach at a school, and the getting away from school and approaching music in a more natural improvisational manner, where you listen more, and it's not about you. You put yourself in the center of all the musicians and you listen to the music. So there's a natural approach to that, to music and the business end, that I think needs, in today's climate, more singers and musicians should try to approach. Learning more about the business, and I wish I could answer that.
But that's very, very good insight. So thank you to both of you for the great advice, and of course, I wish you the very, very best with this new album, with all your projects, and hopefully we'll have an opportunity to see you live, whether on the porch or in a beautiful theater, right? We look forward to that. Congratulations again, and all the very best. Thank you for being on the show today.
Thank you, Vivian. Thank you so
wonderful.
much.
Thank
My
you.
pleasure. And this is all for this edition of All That Jazz, when we bring you all that is jazz. Until then, I'm Viviam Maria Lopez. Have a great jazzy day.